So without further ado, let us put our hands together to welcome Dr. Felicia Chai from Smile and Dental.
Hi everyone.
Hello,
Can everyone hear
doctor. Nice to see
me?
you.
Can everyone hear me?
Yep, I can hear you. That's good.
All right. So it's a pleasure to be here today, and also thank you Enfagrow A Plus and also GoGo Kids for putting such a wonderful event today. So I'm Dr. Felicia Chai from Smile and Penang, and I understand that there are a lot of parents have a lot of questions about their kids. So we have pre-collected a little bit, and we are going to focus on some of the important questions which really need to be known by almost all the parents. So without further delay, maybe we can start to answer this any question from the parents.
Yes. Yes, sure. Just like Dr. Felicia Chai has mentioned that we have pre-collected all these questions and I am going to represent everyone to ask these questions. All right, the very first question that I would like to ask, right, actually, what are the essential nutrients needed for tooth development and how would malnutrition impact on the development on your teeth?
Okay, so can everyone see this slide?
Oh, you have prepared a slide. All
Yes.
right. I think
Can we see
that's
the
really
slide?
great. Then we have a better understanding. Wait, yeah. Dun, dun, dun. Let's make the screen pop with the slide. Shaping your child's beautiful smile and jawline. Okay, so we shall wait for a bit that so that Doctor can actually put up the slide so that we will have better understanding on how everything works.
Okay.
So today we have roughly 5 to 6 questions to ask you. Is that all right?
Yeah, sure. So can everyone see the slide now?
Not yet.
Okay. Right, I think it's coming through. Is it?
Ah, all right. It's loading. Ta-da! Ah, that's good.
Alright, so we're going to see what are the essential nutrients needed to tooth development and also how does malnutrition impact on development of our tooth. So by the age 2 to
Sorry,
3,
doctor.
yes?
Sorry, doctor. Maybe you can move the screen towards the center a bit. Yeah,
Okay, how about
to
like
cover.
this?
Ah, yeah, that's good. Else we will be seeing too many of us.
Okay, oh sorry. Alright, I think
No,
now
it's
it's
okay.
better. Okay?
Ah, yeah. Great.
Right. So, what are the nutrients needed for tooth development, and how malnutrition going to impact on the development of our tooth? So, sorry. So, okay. So, by the age 2 to 3 years old, a toddler should have almost 20 primary teeth. So, these 20 primary teeth will uh, erupt, and a lot of people thought that maybe after this period of time, the kids has already completed their tooth development. In fact, tooth development actually happens during the entire childhood. So meaning that from the age 2 to age 5, this period of time is actually the golden period whereby the tooth is constantly growing. So if you can see from this picture, right? So the middle here is the tooth that is what we can see in the mouth. But can you see this green color thing over here?
Yeah.
So this green color one is actually the tooth bud of the permanent tooth. So meaning this period of time, the permanent tooth are actually growing inside the jaw. So they will gradually absorb nutrition and then become longer and longer. So this tooth bud is going to grow longer. As they grow longer, they will exert pressure on the primary tooth. So the primary tooth will start to become shaking because the root absorbed already. So by the
Oh.
age maybe 5 or 6 like that, some of the children will complain, hey, my tooth is already wobbly. So the reason they wobbly is because the root has been resorpted, and then eventually when these permanent tooth are ready, they're going to erupt and then the primary tooth will drop out. You see? So that's why during this age 2 to 5 years old, it's actually very important when it comes to nutrition wise. So a children needs to absorb sufficient nutrition for the tooth development because all these permanent tooth it's the second chance already. This all preventive shot should actually last throughout the life. So for the essential nutrition we need during tooth development are including calcium, phosphorus, vitamin A, vitamin C, and also vitamin D. So all these nutrients come hand in hand to give you a strong and a healthy teeth. So when it comes to our child's diet, we might want to make sure that all these included, because in any deficiency of this nutrition, it will affect on our teeth and it might give a more long-term impact. Okay, so sorry. The second question was asked, it's how does malnutrition impact the tooth development, right? So if you look at this anatomy structure, this is the structure of the tooth. So you can see the enamel, dentine, and pulp, right? So enamel
Okay.
is actually the most stronger part of the tooth. So dentine is less strong, and the pulp is where the nerve and also the blood supplies to the tooth. So when malnutrition happen, it can happen in a very wide range, meaning that it might impact on one spot and one teeth, or multiple spot in one teeth, or multiple spot in multiple teeth. So a very common malnutrition of the tooth we can see in daily life. It's called enamel hypomineralization. So enamel hypomineralization meaning that the tooth it's less mineralized. So this one, if you see from the upper picture, it is actually one spot area whereby this white color area it is not as mineralized as it is. You see, so this white spot, if it's exposed to, we call it acid attack, meaning that if you drink food and you drink sugary stuff, you never clean it properly. So when this acid attack, this area is more fragile. They are not as strong as the other parts of the tubes, and then decay will happen on this area. So,
Okay.
like I say, it is very important that during this childhood or toddler growing period that they absorb sufficient nutrition. So if there is a lack of calcium, phosphorus, or vitamin D, the whole tooth will become less mineralized. So meaning that when they crystallize, right, they won't be such a strong structure. Whereas if you have a lack of vitamin A, then the enamel, you see the first layer, that's the strongest layer, the amount of it will be lesser. So that will also impact the tooth development, meaning when got acid attack and things, they cannot resist so strongly. And lower I pick a picture which is more severe case lah. So this is a more severe scenario that it happens on multiple spot and multiple teeth. So from this yellow spots, this tooth you can see there's a lot yellow spot on it, right? So the yellow spot happens, it's because this enamel is missing. So the enamel is missing already. That's why you can only see the dentine area. So yeah, I guess I answered your question already, Jolie.
Yeah, but I also have a little bit of questions. Like you say, the white patches, right? Does it
Mhm.
only happens to your permanent tooth or primary tooth,
Yes,
or it could happen on both?
yes, it is on the permanent tooth or baby tooth. It is also possible. It depends on when the nutrition was absorbed. Meaning that if the malnutrition happened during the childhood period, maybe before the during the formation of the primary teeth, then it will happen on the primary teeth. Whereas if the malnutrition happened when the permanent teeth is forming, then it will manifest on the permanent
Oh,
tooth. So it is very hard to say. Therefore, when it comes to our child's diet, it is always important that we provide as much or as good nutrition as they are, because they are growing, right?
yeah, sure. So, for example, right, if it really happens, can it like through good proper diets and so on, it will just disappear, or we have to go through a certain steps or procedure to like get it better?
It is actually non so reversible, depends on the severity. So if it's just like a very tiny white spot, sometimes we can apply some tooth mousse or something to like remineralize it, but it is usually very hard to go back to how it is normally supposed to be. So meaning that it can be improved, but then it cannot like totally reverse it back. And if it's like
I see.
the lower picture where it's more severe case, then
Mm-hmm.
usually it is not so optimistic lah when it comes to trying
Mm,
to reverse the scenario, but we will give other alternative solution, maybe like make a cap or something to protect it from the daily acid attack lah.
I see. So, for example, right, if during their primary or baby tooth period, they really have this kind of scenario. So, during that period, or they just try their best to like take in all the proper nutritions and so on. So, the permanent tooth could be actually, improved, right?
Yes, by
Or
right it is correct.
okay.
So
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 it's not too late to
sorry.
do an action, take an action towards it. Lah. All right. Okay. Sorry, if I'm wrong, please correct
No, no,
me.
no, don't be.
Okay. So thank you for answering the first question. Then maybe we can proceed to the next one. So is it true that cavities in the primary teeth, right, do not matter?
Well, this is a misconception, I would say. So a lot of people have this misconception that this primary tooth will eventually fall off. So what happened beforehand doesn't really matters. However,
Mhm.
cavities are left untreated, it might lead to a handful of problems. So it might lead to maybe infection or maybe swelling of the face or even pain. And this pain can be so bad that our toddler is not able to eat or not able to sleep. So it is very important that if there is a cavity, it's better to get it treated as soon as possible. Sometimes when cavities are not treated soon enough, the treatment was given too late, it might lead to a more complicated scenario. I have an example here whereby this is also quite happen daily where you see like the parents will say, oh, my kid's gum is swollen. So basically this is not just a gum swelling thing. So what happened is from the picture from the right side you can see there is an enamel dentin and a pulp, right? So just now I mentioned the pulp is where the nerve supply and the blood supply is. So when there is a cavity, meaning that the bacteria is attack, and then they go all the way into the pulp area, the nerve area, and it attacks. Once it attacks the nerve area, right, the nerve will die off. It will slowly degenerate like that. So when they degenerate, it becomes an infection, and then they have this swelling towards the gum area because it manifests in this form. You see, so if this happen already, no, a normal filling will not solve this problem. If this happen, the only treatment options will come down to two options. The first one is to do a root canal treatment, which means we need to de-nerve, we need to drill a hole and then remove the nerve because only by mechanically removal it can solve this problem, it can eliminate the infection. Alternatively, it's to extract the whole tooth, but honestly speaking, this both treatment is also a little bit traumatized to a young child, you see. So the best way to avoid it, try not to let cavity happen. If they do happen, get it treated as early as possible. So if it's just attacking the enamel layer or sometimes a little bit of the dentin layer, it is reversible by just doing a normal filling. It does not lead to complicated problem like I mentioned. So as the saying goes, prevention is always better than cure. Also, people tend to assume that the primary tooth is going to eventually fall out, you see. So primary tooth primary tooth fall out, it's correct, but in certain scenario, they actually don't. You see, sometimes they don't go away. Why? So it is not rare to see cases what we call a congenital missing permanent tooth. It means that by birth, this child do not have any permanent successor. So when it comes to the time that the permanent should erupt through, there is no permanent. So when there is no permanent tooth, right, it does not exert pressure towards the primary tooth. So the primary tooth will not become loose, and they are meant to stay. They are just going to be at that spot, replacing the successor permanent tooth. So that's why it's important that we actually take care of all of them, because we do know if they might not have a successor. So from this picture on the left side, you can see children whereby all the upper front teeth are grossly decayed. They are very badly decayed, that they were definitely not functional, or they have to go eventually. So if this happened to a child that has a congenital missing tooth, when they are adult, when they go into adulthood, they actually will have space over there, because the baby tooth already rotten and cannot be used already, and there is no successor coming on through. So it is also important, like I said, it's important to give all care and make sure there is no cavity happen. From the right side, it's a picture I drew from Gucci's Facebook, and it is actually interesting where they have chosen a congenital missing lady as their lipstick model. You see, so this is a very good example whereby the second front teeth of the model has congenital missing, meaning that it is not there. And in this kind of scenario, usually they will only have they need to seek other alternative replacement for the congenital missing lah, because they don't have the primary teeth, and also they don't have a permanent teeth. So usually the options will be maybe denture, maybe a bridge, or maybe an implant. So yeah, it's very important that if there is a cavity in a primary tooth, always get it solved as soon as possible, because it will really leads to a very long list of problem, and it causes a lot of headache for parents and also children as well. Yep.
Yeah. I have a little side story to share with you. I myself, right, I have this problem like the Gucci's picture. So my middle tooth at the bottom layer here was the first primary tooth that came off, and then it never grew any before. Right after that, right, it has always been a hole. But now that I have covered it, so it has been accompanying me for like, I think the first time it came off, it was when I was 6 or 7 years old, when I was really small. It was the first tooth. And then I had this hole all the way until like few years back then. So because I also participated in some TV show shooting, yeah. So I was one of the TV hosts who does all these art and crafts. And then I had this hole over here. So there was once, right? I went out for like their activities, and then one of the grandma came and tapped my shoulder. Then she went like, "Oh, you're the one with hole, with hole, right?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, I'm the one." So apparently, actually, it really does affect the appearance very much. And also, I had this problem because I had the hole over here. So when I speak that time, ever since small, because I noticed that it doesn't grow. So ever since small, I tried to train myself to talk with my lips covering the hole, so that it doesn't feel like, oh, I got a kind of sound. Yeah. So that's one of the things.
How psychologically also give a not very confident feeling, right?
Yeah. And then when I was small, I always smile without my teeth. I'll just like that. So it definitely affect a lot. So if really parents, if you notice that your kids are having this kind of problem, kindly consult a dentist, and then you will like find out more about it, so that you will save a lot of hassle actually.
True.
Speaking from experience. All right, thank you for the second question. And then we proceed to the next one. I think the next one also many people could relate to it because kids, they actually have this little habit. So is thumb sucking habit harmful to the teeth? Like that.
Okay, so despite thumb sucking habits, it's very soothing for a child's emotion, but it is always advisable to quit thumb sucking by the age of 3, you see, because if you have a prolonged sucking habits, it actually leads to a condition where we call an open bite. So what is an open bite? If you look at the lower right picture, you can see actually all the back teeth are biting together, and then the front teeth, there is a hole there. So the front teeth cannot meet each other. So this hole is actually created whereby they place their thumb over there. It's like the space custom made for them to put their thumb over that area. So because all these
Yeah.
thumb or maybe they suck other pillow or something. So all these items has been there for such a long period. You see, throughout the growth they've been there, and they has actually guided the tooth to grow in a wrong direction. Meaning they should be covering like this, but then instead it flares because you place your thumb right here. You see, so of course this is going to affect the physical appearance. In a way it create a less attractive smile. So like Jolie shared her experience. So when they suddenly lately when they start to be conscious about their appearance, like they give them a lot of uh, psychological stress as well. So it is very important whereby if the parents notice that the kids has such habits, it is always to get eliminated as early as possible, because things like this you see from this picture, it's actually the permanent tooth already. So the permanent tooth position is actually wrongly guided. So yeah, it's always good to just quit habits as soon as the parents found out.
Yeah, and also the pacifier also, right? All this thing. So, if they're facing this kind of problems, right, should they like really cut off these habits, or is there any like external help that could help in fixing this problem?
Uh, Cutting off the habit will be the best option, you see, because habits and also correction comes hand in hand. Meaning that if you want to reverse the scenario, first you have to quit one habit first. So if you do not quit a habit, then your even though we reverse your teeth position already, then you start sucking again, then it will not resolve, you see. So it is always the first thing is to quit the habit. So sometimes if it's still early stage whereby when the permanent tooth are not erupt yet, then quitting the habit, even though despite the primary tooth are flaring, then sometimes the permanent tooth will not happen also. So depends on which stage, but the first important point is to quit the habit first.
Mm, yeah. So, mommy and daddy, is another tough question for you. How do you make them quit the habit? All right. So we go to the next question. The next question is that if a child is a mouth breather, yeah, I know quite numbers of children, right, with this habit as well. It's a mouth breather. How does this habit affect his or her physical appearance?
But this is a very good question, because mouth breathing habit is a very widely seen habits, but a very less attentions are paid to, you see. But mouth breathing actually will bring a lot of impact, especially during the growth spurt of a child. So if you look at this picture, you might see a very cute little girl trying to enjoy her own time playing. But what really concerned me is she's a mouth breather, so she's breathing through her mouth. So how do you know if your kids is a mouth breather? All you need to do is observe them when they are not eating or speaking. Their lips should be closed. So if when they play computer games or when they watch TV, their mouth are constantly open, most likely they are a mouth breather. So mouth breather will affect a lot of things. The main reason is because of the tongue position. So the tongue position is not at the correct place, and then because of the tongue position is not at the correct area, the jaw and also the muscle of the face will not grow to the full development. Meaning that, in other words, they are underdeveloped because of the tongue position, you see. So this causes a restrict forward growth. So usually chronic mouth breather will have a few features, like, profile, where we can notice quite easily, meaning they usually have a flattened nose, shortened upper lips, receding chin, and also a forward head position. So before I further explain how mouth breathing can affect the teeth alignment, maybe we can do a tiny activity. So can I have everyone bite their teeth together, close your lips together, and then breathe in, breathe out. So the question is, where is your tongue? It will be at the roof of the mouth, correct?
Yeah.
Correct? Yep. So now maybe you loosen your teeth, don't bite together, and then open your lips. Just probably separate it 3 to 4 millimeter. Okay, breathe in through your nose again. Breathe out. So there is two outcome from here. The first is you will find that when you open your mouth, breathing through the nose, it's tremendously effort. You need a lot of energy to breathe in through your nose, right? So meaning if your kids is constantly opening their mouth, right, they are most likely breathing through the mouth, because there is no way that you can consciously focus on something and then open your mouth and then also use a lot of effort to breathe in through your nose. See?
I
So
see.
so you know that if your kids is constantly opening their mouth, most of the time they might be a mouth breather. And also when you open your mouth, separate a little bit. Where is the tongue? The tongue is usually forked downwards, right? You can feel like the tongue is on
I
the
see.
floor of the mouth, right? So
Right.
this is actually going to impact on the teeth alignment and also the jaw development of the kid. So in other words, the shape of the top jaw is the shape of the tongue, meaning when you're constantly close together, your tongue is exerting pressure towards the upper jaw. So this helps the upper jaw to grow into the potential size. Just now we already learned that the permanent tooth are already pre-formed when you're a child, right? So when the permanent tooth is supposed to come out, they need a correct size jaw to contain them. So if the tongue is constantly exerting pressure, then it will grow into a nice U-shaped jaw on the left side, you see? Whereas if the tongue is constantly fall to the floor of the mouth, right, then it does not exert sufficient pressure for the jaw to grow. So the jaw will become, in other words, underdeveloped, meaning that they will become a more V shape. You can see from the right side of the picture, it's the more narrow and V-shaped jaw. So when the permanent come out, right, they have not enough space, you see. So when you sit in a car and you don't have enough space, what do you do? Some people sit forward a little bit, some people sit backwards a little bit, right? So that will affect the teeth alignment. When they try to adjust themselves, then they become more crowded. Okay, so and also like we say, it tends to affect the physical appearance as well. So the facial profile is affected, whereby if you look at this picture on the left, you can see the tooth is a V shape. So the teeth picture shows that the arch is a V shape, and because the lower jaw grow according to the upper jaw size, the upper jaw is like this, the lower jaw grow. So if your upper jaw is restricted, the lower jaw will be restricted as well. So from the picture, you can see the retruded chin, meaning that the chin is much more inwards. And on the right side, when you see after treatment, after the upper arch is expanded, the lower jaw also grow accordingly, you see. And then I believe everyone will agree that this will be a good picture, whereby a good profile, whereby it is look much more attractive on the left compared to the left one, right?
Yeah.
Yep. So yeah, so these are the basic concepts on how mouth breathing going to affect one's teeth alignment and also their physical appearance, their facial profile.
All right. So, doctor, may I ask, right? Because like you said, the one on the left is actually V-shaped jaw, the lower jaw. So actually, how do you like what kind of treatment needed to make it, reverse it into the better one?
Okay, so it has a very big range of treatments depending on the severity. But then, if it is not very severe cases, of if it's very early detection, all we need to do is train the kid to breathe through the nose again. So you breathe through your nose, your tongue will be up there, and then it will expand already. You see, so this is like I said, for everything to solve right, the main thing is the habit first. You need to tackle the habits,
Mm,
solve the habits, and then the rest will come along the way lah.
okay, I like this. Yeah, actually, after all, it's all about habits. We have to have good habits in order to like achieve what we want.
Yeah, you
Okay,
need to.
thank you. Sorry for interrupting. All right, then the next one that I would like to ask, right, is how to prepare a child for the first dental visit. We all know that because children could be really, very troublesome when they have to visit a dentist and so on. So how do we prepare them?
Okay, so on how to preparing a kid to the first dental visit. First of all, a lot of people only go to a dentist when the kid has problems. So I
Yeah.
think this mentality or this concept needs to be changed, because when you only bring the kid in when they have problem, sometimes it's a little bit too much for them to get used, you see. So uh, it is always encouraged to go to a dentist way before. When there is nothing, you go for a regular checkup. Usually in how I do is, if it's the kids first or second visits, I usually judge to see how accommodating the children is, how comfortable he or she is in the dental setting first. Then maybe it's very afraid, then we probably will not do much. We probably will just introduce them the setting, let them play a little bit with the chair, and then they will build a rapport and also trust you see. So the next time when they come, they already know what to expect. So when it really comes down to treatment time, right, their cooperative level is actually very good, you see. So I will encourage parents to do a regular visit to a dentist. So a little bit tips is maybe try to avoid a nap time. So sometimes when it comes to nap time, the child will be a little bit fussy, a little bit moody like that. So you see, according to your kids schedule. So pick a time where they are more energetic or they are more ready, you see. And the second thing, it's also very important, do not tend to create a negative impression towards dentists. A lot
Mm,
of time, the parents will so-called like threaten them, tell them, oh, if
yeah.
you eat a lot of this one, later dentist will extract all your teeth. Maybe the dentist will pull your teeth out or something like this. So in in other words, right, we became a nightmare because of the parents' statement. So they create the monstrous effect in the child's heart
Yeah.
already. So this is very important, because sometimes out of convenience, parents also like, "Ai," they just speak, but they never realize that it actually builds an impact on the children. You see, and
I
what
have
we
to
can.
admit that, right? Sorry, I
Sorry.
have to admit that, right? My sister actually did exactly the same thing to my niece. So my niece always loves sweet stuff in order to make her not to eat it anymore. And then she said the same thing. She said, "Oh, the dentist is going to extract everything from out from your mouth, or you better quit it now." Ever since then, she really very very afraid of dentists. Really.
Yeah, so sometimes we are also very confused, like it's the kid first visit, we haven't done anything at all, and before entering the door, the kid starts to cry very badly in
Sobbing,
front.
like that. Pity thing.
Yeah. So also parents can become a role model. You see, you try to tell them that this is actually nothing. It's just a regular thing. Like we every day also we need to eat. Every day also we need to. It's a routine thing where you just do it less often. So parents can be a role model. Maybe they can go first and then show the kids how things done, and they are totally okay after the treatment like this. Or alternatively, there is a lot of material available, so can let them to watch some YouTube or maybe a storybook about a dental visits and things like this, and that helps to make them interested, you see, so they kind of know what's expected. And a lot of them they cry because they do know what to expect, you see. So sometimes they see us dressed like a doctor, they have that impression because they go to doctors for jabs and things like this. So when they see us, then they
Yeah.
straight away cry already. So yeah, so if
Mhm.
the kid knows what is coming on, they are more prepared, and then it actually makes the whole treatment or make the whole procedure less traumatized for the children as well.
Yeah, totally agree on this one. Okay, thank you, Doctor. Actually, you gave a lot of good advices to all the parents out there. You know how to handle this because it's not only helping the dentist. You also saving you a lot of troubles so that you don't have to like take care of these fussy kids and so on. So prepare them first before they actually visit the dentist. It will help a lot, and also it wouldn't like doctor say leave a very bad impressions to all the kids. It's like the dentists are all very monstrous like that. Pity you also actually. Okay, so the next question is, like I have mentioned earlier before this session started, right? There are actually so many kids that have told me before that they really want to do braces. So of course, some of them they really need it, but some of them they just think that, oh, my friends have already done it. It's nice, it's colorful, and I want to do the same thing also. So is there any ideal age to start your braces?
Okay, so is the ideal age to start braces. So braces, generally, the thumb of rule will be when they have all the 28 permanent tooth erupted lah. So we cannot start braces. I'm not say cannot, but it's very conditionally where we start braces when a kid has a mixed dentition, meaning that got primary and permanent teeth together. Usually it is only a condition based lah. So that's what we call an early orthodontic treatment, meaning that when during this period of time they might have some problem that if they be corrected earlier, then it actually is very good for their growth. So there are a few
Mhm.
indications. The first one is an anterior posterior crossbite. Basically, what it means is the teeth it's reverse, meaning our upper teeth is like this, lower teeth is like this. When you bite together, the upper is in front, right? So your lower is
Mm.
behind. But there are certain kids that they have a reverse bite, meaning that the lower is
Mm.
outside. So this one, it will it will impact the growth of the jaw. So just now I said, supposedly the upper jaw grow and then the lower jaw will guide it, right? So if it's reverse, right, meaning that the lower jaw is actually restricting the upper jaw to grow. So if this one did not be corrected as an early stage, then
Mm.
maybe you will have a feature whereby it's a mid-face deficiency, meaning that the face it's go inside a little bit. Here it's
Mm.
underdeveloped. So in this kind of
Mm.
scenario, usually we will encourage to correct first. So it's not a full procedure for braces, but then just a procedure whereby we let the bite jump and then they can grow accordingly. So in later
Um,
stage, if needed, then maybe we will still do braces. If it's not needed, if they think that the teeth alignment come up be okay, then maybe no. But then it's not a whole thing, but just a temporary resolve for the sake of the growth of the jaw. And also
mm.
overbite more than 6 millimeter, meaning that the upper jaw it's too forward. It has a gap between the upper teeth and the lower front
Mm.
teeth, 6 millimeter. That is a little bit too much. So sometimes we tend to do something to help to uh, help to reduce the severity, lah, I would say. And then maybe anterior open bite. associated with thumb sucking or tongue thrusting. So just now we see the picture, there's a hole right there, right? So when condition like this, sometimes they, even though they try a lot of method whereby they try to stop the thumb sucking but cannot. So sometimes we also go in and intervene. Maybe we put something on the teeth area, and then when the kid put the finger inside, right, it will actually poke the finger. So it's not very
Oh.
lesson already. So they will forced to quit the habits. Like, of course, these are more severe. Lah. There are other tips where normal remedy where parents maybe take the finger or maybe put some chili on the finger. So when they start
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
spicy.
yeah.
So these are the more regular method lah. But then sometimes it really cannot. Then we do have intervene things like this to help to correct the habits lah. And also the last one, maxillary and mandibular hyperplasia. Basically, it means the upper jaw or lower jaw underdevelopment. So it's the same thing like I explained for you. Sometimes it's the lower jaw is too forward, the upper jaw cannot grow, or the upper jaw grow, lower jaw doesn't follow. These kind of things are more, they are more case by case basis. So the best thing is to visit a dentist regularly so they can actually monitor your whole progress, and then they can foresee or they can suggest a more suitable treatment lah. So generally, like I say, is if these are not supported, then when the kid has all 28 teeth, then it's the time where to wear braces. But of course, like you say, a lot of children sometimes they just come to me and say, "Oh yeah, we want braces because it's look cool, and things like this." So usually I will tell them to go back and read about disadvantage of braces, meaning that how you want to, what can braces what are the process lah, what is the not so nice process about braces. Like you need to really take care of your teeth because braces will make brushing more complicated. So if you do not brush properly during the braces period, then you might have decay, and once you have a decay it is not reversible, you see. So make sure that kids are committed, they really think that they can commit, brush properly, they can follow instructions. Sometimes we'll ask them to wear elastic or something like this. So make sure you can
Mm.
commit to all this. Then of course, if the conditions needed, then we will do lah. Otherwise, we don't put braces for fun.
Definitely, definitely. So there's one more question also, right? Because they always do say that if you do your braces when you are much younger, then it takes shorter time. So when you're fully grown, it will take a longer time. Is that true?
No. In what sense do you say younger or older?
So which means, for example, I do it during my primary school time so that it is easier to form into the shape that I really want it, what I desire. Or if we compare it to 20s, 20 over years old, whether it will take a longer time or not.
Oh, I get what you're trying to say. So actually, right, it is come down to the growth spurt and also development, meaning that sometimes in teenage their metabolism is better. You see, the growth spurt is better,
Um,
so they are more responsive to the treatments, meaning that the teeth move faster like that. But maybe when we grow older, our metabolism rate reduce a little bit, then it will have a little bit delay, but it doesn't really like do it doesn't really have a very significant impact lah. But if you really need to compare, maybe yes, a little bit quicker, but not so bad that until it's very significant.
all right, all right. Thank you, doctor, for answering to all my questions. All right. I think it has been a very informative session with Dr. Felicia Chai, and then we have also answered most of the questions from the collected parent. Yeah, most of the questions that we collected from the parents. And of course, if there is anything else that the parents or the kids itself you would like to know, right, always feel free to contact us. okay, you can always go through us, Google Kids, to get the context of Dr. Felicia Chai. And then she will definitely reply everyone and help you to solve all the doubts you have with you. All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Chai. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with us?
I guess we answered all the questions. So if there is any further, you can always either go through Google Kids or contact me via probably email or Instagram or things like this. Yeah, I guess we had a very pleasant session. Thank you.
Thank you. I really learned so much, and I can totally relate it to all my previous the problems that I have been facing all this while. Actually, thank you so much.
Welcome.
Okay, once again, a round of applause to Dr. Felicia Chai. Thank you for being here. Thank you.